Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of MuslimFin. I think this is our third podcast of the MuslimFin podcast series. And today we're going to chat about a continuation of what we discussed last week. Just as a refresher, last week we spoke about the differences between an Islamic banking account and a conventional banking account. So this week we're going to look at something a bit more simpler. And it's along the lines of how to actually open a Islamic banking account. And as easy as it might sound, there's still a few potholes that people fall into when it comes to opening an Islamic banking account. Before we go ahead, in studio tonight is Ali Salih and Siraj Buzik, two members of the MuslimFin team. I'm going to hand over to them, but before I do that, perhaps I could quick welcoming. I'll start off with Ali Salih. Ali, how are you doing? Welcome again to the third podcast of MuslimFin.
Shukran, Shamim. Happy to be here. Alhamdulillah. All good my side.
Siraj, your side, what's happening on your side?
Alhamdulillah, always happy to be part of the podcast. Hopefully tonight we can see some insights into some of the matters on Islamic banking and finance.
Perfect. So I'm going to dive straight into it. I think one of the questions that comes up quite a bit is how do we go about opening up a Islamic banking account, whether it's a transactional, savings, or current bank account. If I want to open up an Islamic banking account, what are the prerequisites and basic requirements that I require to open up an Islamic banking account? Over to you, Siraj.
Alhamdulillah, that's a great question, Shamin. So opening a bank account has become simpler over time. I think with banks moving to online banking, branches everywhere nowadays, you can actually just walk into a branch or actually go online and open an account. But creating a new account does require a bit of preparation. So for example, you need to decide which type of account you want and how you want to use it. And again, luckily, while this banking jargon can be intimidating, the process isn't too difficult once you know a few banking basics. So I'll answer a few things that you will probably need to consider when opening a bank account. I think one of the things that you need to know is that you need to make sure that you're eligible to open an account. So before you enter a bank, it's perhaps wise to check whether you meet all the criteria for opening an account. So, as a general rule, most banks will require the following. If you're under 18, some banks might require you to, your parents to sign some forms to open an account. You'll need documentation such as your ID, proof of address, etc. You also want to look at the bank that you want to use. So which bank do you choose? So not all the banks are the same. So even when it comes to basic personal accounts, so it can be very wise to, to contact the banks in your local area to discuss what exactly you get if you open a basic account. So while all banks are different, I think these generally belong into two general categories. You get your large chain banks, and then you get a bit of your smaller local banks. And the difference between the two is that, the large chain banks, they usually have branches in most towns and cities across the country. And, which is great, which really means that you'll be able to get basically, the same service no matter where you go. And again, this wide coverage can help you, avoid fees you'll have to pay for using other bank services. And large banks are usually, they usually have the resources to offer service like 24-hour helplines for customers. In addition, these banks tend to have more stable, trusted reputation, etc. The smaller banks, again, they offer more personal human experience. So, there's those two options that you can look at. Thirdly, you'd probably want to think, pick the type of account that you want. So for most of the time, when people open an account, it's either a check account or a savings account or both. And both these accounts allow you to safely store your money with a bank and, to withdraw it as you need it. However, each type of account, is best for different tasks. So for your check accounts, I think most people use the check accounts for day-to-day purchases. You get a card, you can pay for things with money in your account. Whereas a savings account, as the name suggests, it's for saving, money, and especially for saving money over long term. So those are generally things you want to look at. And then also, visit your bank and ask, about the different types of accounts are available. And I think opening an account in person is usually the best option for, for first-time account holders. And I think, one big advantage of opening an account in person is that you can ask the teller or the consultant, questions and get immediate answers. with regards to, fees, what you can do with the account, what are the benefits, etc. So those are some of the things you need to look at, when opening your first bank account. And obviously, importantly, you want to ask, do they have the Sharia compliant option when it comes to the check account, as well as to the savings account?
And let me go one step back. And from a documents perspective, would it be the similar or same type of documents required, like a conventional account, such as your ID, etc.?
Correct. So alhamdulillah, what you've seen with Islamic banking in our market is that they've mirrored not only the product itself, but the entire process of opening. So the same documentation that you would have needed to open a conventional account will be the same documentation you will have to open an Islamic account. So you will need your ID, you will need your proof of address. When it comes to a check account, and depending the type of check account you'd like to open, they might require a payslip. And these are the same documents that you would have needed if you opened a conventional savings account or a check account. So there's no difference in processes in opening an account.
That is quite comforting, because there's always hurdles when it comes to the Islamic banking account. Number one, not a lot of people know about the information and the features around the opening up or the features around an Islamic banking account. And number two, we think that the process is slightly different. But as you're mentioning now, the process and requirements for the account is exactly the same.
Correct, Shamin. I think there's a couple of things that people look at. One of it is the banking jargon. That's the one thing. And when it comes to Islamic banking, there's your Islamic terminologies. And then the Islamic product itself, the understanding how it works, how different is it to conventional. And then obviously, how do I go about actually accessing these products? So the banks have made it as simple as possible. Looking at Islamic windows, which is a topic we touched on in our previous podcast, where from an Islamic window perspective, and as we mentioned, Islamic window is a conventional institution that offers a Sharia-compliant product. But they've aligned not just the product to the conventional products, but they've aligned the processes as well. So in terms of opening the account, utilizing the infrastructures. So with opening an account, that's great, but you still get the same, access to what you would have gotten if you had a conventional account. So you can use your ATMs, you can load debit orders on your Islamic check account, you can have an Islamic savings account linked to it. So you get all the benefits that you would have gotten from a conventional account. You do get it on the Sharia compliant account. And again, just to make sure everybody understands, obviously the Islamic check account, it doesn't earn any interest in there. And then your monies are also, basically, not part of the bigger banks' monies or pool of funds in terms of where they invest their monies, and making sure that it is Sharia compliant.
Yeah, because from what I can pick up, I think just the information and the lack of information, it's possibly one of the biggest hurdles for people actually switching to an Islamic banking account, amongst other things which we do know about. But I think the information part is quite a big hurdle, and quite a small hurdle if you think about it, given the information that you've just provided on how to actually open an Islamic bank account. Specifically on the wealth management side, and it's good that we have you in studio today. You obviously look at wealth management, and across your offering, you experience quite a bit of involvement with Islamic type clients and investing for Islamic clients. How often does this type of question come your way, where a bank account would enter the conversation whilst you are discussing wealth management Islamic offerings?
Yeah, shukran, Shamim. That's a good question. Look, I think, whenever you discuss or you use the term wealth management, you have to think holistically. So when you think holistically, banking obviously forms a large part of that, because our clients need bank accounts, and they need bank accounts for the everyday transactions, to place money in savings accounts, to save their money, to grow their money. So they're going to need to have access to banking, to online access, to view their balances, to make payments, for transfers and those types of things. And then specifically when it comes to Sharia compliant investments, it's also important that clients have Sharia-compliant bank accounts that are linked to the investments. So in the event that they decide that they need to make a withdrawal from the investments and then transfer it to a bank account, it's always a good idea to have the bank account be Sharia-compliant. So whether they decide to transfer it into a checking account for short term, where they need to maybe make payments from, or if they want to transfer it for a longer period, still seen as short term, but for longer, then they can transfer that into a savings account where they would still earn some profit share instead of interest, right? And so that then allows them to be able to create some form of liquidity and accessibility to the investments. So it's the question is, it's not that the question necessarily comes up, it's that it has to be discussed. And also it's a key part of planning holistically. So we would always say to our clients that are doing or want to make sure that all of the assets are, either growing in a Sharia compliant way or being managed in a Sharia compliant way, that whatever account is linked to the Sharia compliant investments, that it also be Sharia compliant, so that they don't have that portion of funds that, maybe, or products that generate interest, and would then force them to then take that interest and then purify that by, either giving that as charity, or having to give it away, so this is a way for them to hold on to the funds and utilize the funds and maximize in terms of, taking advantage of the profit share that they would generate in, let's say, the savings accounts that are Sharia compliant.
And I'm sure that, when you're having these discussions with, or proposals with Islamic investment type clients, some of them may not necessarily know that a current or an Islamic banking option exists for those funds to be liquidated. And in doing so, they're obviously none the wiser, because they're just focusing on making sure that the investment portion is under Sharia umbrella, not knowing that there's a Islamic banking landing point for them as well, to ensure that there's consistency for the funds to sit under a Sharia kind of umbrella from start to end.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what happens is, once clients start to get on the journey of wanting to have the, solutions be Sharia compliant, they tend to look at every aspect of their life, right? So now they start saying, hey, wait, but I also need to make sure that my car finance is Sharia compliant. I also need to make sure that my mortgage is Sharia compliant. I need to make sure that my investments are invested in Sharia compliant solutions. I need to make sure that the structures that my investments are held in are Sharia compliant, whether it's a local trust or an international trust. And what does that look like? How is it going to benefit my family, or, the beneficiaries of the trust, and those types of things. And then also from a banking perspective, they then start to say, well, what do I do about my bank accounts now? I've always banked maybe in a conventional way. And then, clients are always quite, and Siraj can maybe touch a bit on this as well. Clients are always quite happy to hear that they are able to simply convert or transfer or switch the conventional bank accounts to a Sharia compliant checking account or savings account.
Yeah, I think if I can just add to that, Ali, that's a very interesting point that you do make. And perhaps if I can just take one step back, what we've found out, especially with engaging with the community, engaging with clients, is that there's also this notion where clients are saying, look, for most checking accounts or most check accounts in South Africa, you might not earn a return on your balances in your account. So if I'm not earning any interest on my check account, why do I require an Islamic check account? I've got a check account, my salary goes in there, I use my account to make purchases, I've got debit orders running off there. I'm not earning any interest. So what makes my current or conventional check account not Sharia compliant? And why should I have a Sharia-compliant check account when I'm not earning any interest on my account whatsoever? And that's a false notion, purely because I think what clients don't understand is that the bank has this treasury. So when your funds goes into your account, it goes into this treasury. So when you withdraw it from a treasury. But also remember that, there's a lot of clients' funds that are going into that treasury. And what the bank does is they utilize those funds in activities to generate a return. So on the conventional side, the return that it will be generating will be interest. So your money most likely gets involved in activities that are not Sharia compliant. So they're earning interest on your money, as an example. Also, your money gets mixed in those funds that could be used for example, investing in gambling activities or in the alcohol business or things that are not Sharia compliant. So from a Sharia perspective, the Islamic check account, the treasury is separated from the bigger bank's treasury. So it's basically ring fence. So all clients that are banking Islamically with that institution, their funds are separate as in the Sharia compliant treasury. The funds are then used for Sharia compliant activities, whether it be investing in property, investing in commodities, whether it be gold, things like that. And the profits or the return they do make on those funds will be Sharia compliant, will be profit share. And on the savings accounts, you'll earn a profit share. On a check account, and you'll be happy to know that your funds aren't mixed in those type of activities that are deemed not Sharia compliant or deemed haram within the Sharia.
Ali, you mentioned a topic, quite a contentious topic in your discussion, sorry, about loans and vehicle finance. That's one of the topics that we're going to cover in the future, in the near future. It's a topic that always comes up in these type of discussions. And hopefully next week we can unpack that topic in further detail. For the viewers out there that are listening, if you have any questions, please post it down below. If you feel that there are other topics that you would like us to cover, post it below. We'd happily cover it. And feel free to leave a like. I mean, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything. It's going to help our channel quite a bit, and it's going to help this podcast flare out to other people who may find this podcast quite helpful. But that's it from us. But before I close off, perhaps one of you, Ali, can give us some detail of where the viewers can find some extra information on what you discussed and other important information from MuslimFin.
Yes, absolutely. We are on all of the different social media platforms. So we have a presence on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, obviously YouTube, and we encourage the users and our followers to please share and like our videos. We also have a website, www.muslimfin.com. Again, it's www.muslimfin.com. So we encourage all the viewers to go there and look up our FAQ page, where they can then search any questions that they may have around banking and so much more.
Perfect. I hope you guys enjoy that, and it's a end to podcast number 3, and we hope to see you guys next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.